me. And I knew that at least I was back on track. I was staying true to myself and my character, and I wasn't going to do anything more harmful to the situation. And when you're desperate, and when you're in these situations, and when you don't have the support of the family and friends that thankfully even you do, you're left to some very drastic choices. I feel it's very important to speak about the hiring of mercenaries. It's a common occurrence for left-behind parents to be contacted by individuals and groups claiming to have the experience to bring their children back. Those involved in my case know that we were contacted at least a half a dozen times by so-called professionals, a number of which had very high-profile curriculum vitae, as well as a very expensive cost, usually between $300,000 and $500,000. I cannot express to you in words the anguish of wanting to bring your children back to your side, while at the same time knowing that you have to be the one parent who is going to act in their best interest. Knowing that it meant that I might have to sacrifice a life with my children was incomprehensible, but a definite reality. I was blessed to have the strong support from my family and friends to carry me through the really tough days when I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. No human being should ever have to be faced with the incredulous decisions, do I hire commandos to bring my children to me? When all of the systems fail you, when you do everything the right way and yet you are left powerless, when you know the exact location of your children and yet you cannot touch them or hold them. The following morning, my team called me back and told me that they had an extra day, and if I still wanted to take them myself, they would help me. I was ready. That was the only possible situation, was me. We waited again all morning, and finally they came out to play with the other two girls. I was clear and focused. I knew that I was back on the right track. If they did not come out that day, then that meant that something else would present itself at another time. I was desperate not to add to the stress that my children had no doubt already been through. I went downstairs to the playground and waited patiently. I walked out in full view and very calmly called out Hannah's name. At first she was having difficulty placing me being in Lebanon, and then she just ran forward, yelling, "Mama, Mama." I picked her up, and Cedar followed after Hannah. I told them that they were going to come with me and that we were going to talk to Daddy about it later. I felt completely focused and calm, as I had lived through the decision of not taking them when I had seen them the day before. In this moment, I knew exactly what I was doing. I was their mother, and they were coming with me. I did not run, make any sudden movements, or grab the girls. We walked carefully into the parking lot below and got into our van. We all left, and the guards opened the boom gate for us, and we left without even a slight altercation or raised voice. The men in the van noticed the guards at the gate had eyeballed the back of our vehicle, so they thought it was best if we switched into another vehicle waiting for us around the corner. It was an emotional reunion for all of us. The next 2 months we spent in hiding. Our lawyers' phones were being listened into, as well as the Canadian consulate's phones. The secret police were following consular officials home and harassing them as they thought they were hiding us out in the embassy. The court actions began, and we faced roadblock after roadblock. 2 men from my securities team had been detained, and they were facing charges of kidnapping. It was a horrible situation, but amongst it all, I had the time to reconnect with my girls, and I would not have traded it for anything. Our family and friends spent days on the phone, not sleeping, speaking with our lawyers in both countries, speaking to the consular officials at the Canadian mission in Beirut and with the government in Ottawa. While everyone worked the system to find a solution, our Lebanese friends kept us safe in hiding, gave us hope, and cared for us as though we were their own family. After numerous attempts to get out of Lebanon, our time finally came. My father had already left, as we had fears that if he was caught by the family, that he would be held for ransom for the girls. You have to understand that it is a feudal system in Lebanon. Things are handled family to family, village to village, and very rarely are police involved. This was our big fear, being caught by the family, not by the police. The trip from Beirut to downtown Damascus in Syria is a 45-minute trip. It took us nearly 10 hours. Don't ask me where we went or what happened to our plans of driving right through the border with our on-side guards letting us through. To this day, I don't know where we crossed the border. Although we were never in danger, and we traveled with people that took extremely good care of my daughters and I, the trip was very stressful, as it was a complete surprise to me. We were driven for a long time by our good friends and a number of other cars But somewhere around 4 hours out of Beirut, we said our goodbyes, and we were handed over to some of their acquaintances. Our passports were to be prepared for travel, but these new friends seemed confused by the lack of entry and exit stamps that were required to leave Lebanon. We didn't have them. I didn't care. Things were now out of my hands. I'd waited over 50 days for this to be organized with many false starts. This was their job now, not mine. I was exhausted, and I needed every ounce of my strength to concentrate on the girls and keeping a calm demeanor, even though I was petrified inside at not knowing what was going on. It took another 2 hours of downtime and another exchange of vehicles before the girls and I found ourselves in a pickup truck with a very nervous man and a kind face. The girls were tired, as was I. I had a handkerchief around my head, and the girls were in toques and winter coats, as it's very cold and muddy where we were. Cedar decided to take off her toque, and the driver indicated quickly for me to put it back on. He pointed ahead up the road and said, "Police." I tried to put Cedar's hood up, but she had had enough, and in the true fashion of a tired 3-year-old, she had a full-blown tantrum. The driver tried to shush her over and over again, but she was not having it. I rocked her, and I tried to calm her. Finally, the driver indicated that he wanted me to cover her mouth with my hand. It is a moment that will stick out in my mind for many years to come. It probably took all of 3 seconds, but in that instant I thought, if this is where we get caught, then so be it. But I was not going to cover my baby daughter's face with my hand. The large special police van rolled past us on that muddy road, with only a nod in our direction. Seconds later, we passed a guard with a machine gun on the side of the road. The driver turned to me with a smile that I had not yet seen on his face and said, "Syria." Our arrival in Syria was not without drama. But because of the warmth of a Canadian consular official and his family, it made the world of difference. This man went out on a limb and made all the necessary and complicated arrangements to facilitate our travel out of Syria. On February 19th, the opportunity to travel home to Canada came, and it was when the immigration in Calgary said, "Welcome home, Melissa." It was only then that I smiled. After 47 days in the Middle East, we were finally home. I have 4 lawyers in Lebanon. 1 for my civil case, 1 for my criminal case, and 2 for the religious courts, or as I call them, my Jesus lawyers. To date, my Canadian custody orders have been granted in Lebanon after we posted them in the papers. This process had been hindered to the point of frustration. Anne Bordeaux's boss, Jean-Marc Lesage, would know this. There was a number of times, every time we went to the judge, it was a woman judge, she would put up roadblock after roadblock. "Come see me next Thursday and have this done." We'd show up next Thursday, not me, obviously my lawyers, and she'd find something else for us to do. Jean-Marc got on the phone and spoke to her saying, "What is it we need? All in one trip. Tell us what we need." And she told them about the papers. They would have drawn this out for years. And then I believe that it was the orders were recognized, and I believe it was a direct result of a phone call from Peter MacKay to the Prime Minister of Lebanon. Before it blew up in the media, numerous letters and pleas had been written by my family members, friends, and myself to our MPs. We'd only gotten polite responses that there was little that anybody could do, and I understand that. It was a legal situation. But after it blew up in the media, it was pretty amazing what could happen when you throw a hot potato in someone's lap. But I don't recommend it. The 2 men that were being detained from our security team are home with their families as well. Because of my orders being recognized, their charges were downgraded from kidnapping to obstruction of justice, which was a misdemeanor. The international courts and the Hague Convention state that Canada is the girls' habitual residence and the country which custody should be determined. Canadian courts and Lebanese courts have granted me custody of Hannah and Cedar. There is a great frustration that the majority of the Middle East will not join the other 80 countries that have signed the Hague Convention in an effort to protect children in these cases. However, there are many other countries classified as non-compliant Hague signatories. They've signed the Hague, but they don't honor it. The morning after we returned to Canada, I was sitting quietly thinking about everything that had happened. I was still quite numb emotionally, but I was given such a gift of peace with the realization that there was not one thing that I would have done differently.